Tonight on Bridge City News, at least 10 people are dead after an active shooter incident in a rural community of Nova Scotia, including an RCMP officer and the suspect. U.S. President Trump says he believes the coronavirus outbreak has peaked and some states will be reopening their economy by May 1st. And some small businesses are turning to robot deliveries to get groceries to their customers.
Your nation. Your province. Your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Paul Arthur.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Details are scarce, but RCMP officials say at least 10 people are dead, including the suspect and an RCMP officer following a lengthy police chase in Nova Scotia. RCMP Constable Heidi Stevenson, a 23-year-old veteran of the force and mother of 2 children, was killed in the incident, while another officer was injured. Late last night, police in the rural community of Portapique were called to an active shooter situation. The suspect was wearing a police uniform, and RCMP tweeted that the suspect was driving what appeared to be an RCMP cruiser. Witnesses say there were several house fires in the area. Officers apparently chased after the man throughout the night before finally confronting him at a gas station this morning where he was shot dead. He is identified as 51-year-old Gabriel Wortman. The Conservatives appear to be the dissenting voice in negotiations on how to conduct business in the House of Commons during the COVID-19 pandemic, with leader Andrew Scheer demanding 3 weekly in-person sessions. The Liberals are proposing 1 in-person setting with a limited number of MPs and a second virtual sitting each week, both with extended time for opposition parties to question the government. The other parties appear to support the Liberal plan, but all parties must reach an agreement before tomorrow. Otherwise, all 338 MPs and their staff will be expected to return to Parliament Hill on Monday. The operator of an Alberta long-term care home that was taken over by the province following 5 COVID-19 deaths admits some protocols may have been missed due to a shortage of staff. Manoir Duloc owner Jean Zinnick says a dozen of his staff were sent home in March, and then others chose not to come in. He says his workforce was further depleted when the province ordered that staff could only work at 1 facility. Alberta Health has also accused staff of not wearing personal protective equipment correctly, but Zinnick says staff may have been confused by complicated guidelines for when masks are needed. Meanwhile, the Alberta Union of Provincial Employees says frontline workers in the COVID-19 battle are reporting surgical masks that don't fit and have straps that fall apart during patient care. The union says staff have also experienced nausea, headaches, skin rashes, and throat irritation after wearing the masks, which have an unpleasant odor. Health Ministry spokesman Steve Buick says all equipment procured by Alberta Health Services is safe and that future mask shipments will include corrections to improve the fit. The Canadian Civil Liberties Association says the response by municipalities to COVID-19 restrictions is an unconstitutional mess, and it will seek amnesty for all tickets and fines issued for recreational infractions during the pandemic. The association has received at least 100 public complaints from those who have been ticketed by police or bylaw officers for things like jogging on golf courses or exercising in parks. Executive Director Michael Bryant says the restrictions are an abuse of power because the activities involved are usually harmless and should be met with warnings rather than costly fines. With fewer people outside and less traffic because of the pandemic, normally shy animals are roaming more freely. The Canadian Wildlife Federation says increased wildlife sightings have been occurring all across Canada. In early April, there were 15,000 new sightings reported to the online database iNaturalist.ca, compared with only 9,500 during the same period last year. At a White House briefing yesterday, U.S. President Donald Trump stated that he believes the coronavirus sweeping across the United States has peaked and announced a number of states would be reopening their economies soon.
We continue to see a number of positive signs that the virus has passed its peak. It's been very devastating all over the world, 184 countries, probably more. This number was as of a week ago. Dr. Birx will walk through some of these trends in a few moments, but they're very positive trends for winning. Since we released the guidelines to open up America again, and this was 2 days ago, a number of states led by both Democrat and Republican governors have announced concrete steps to begin a safe, gradual, and phased opening. Texas and Vermont will allow certain businesses to open on Monday while still requiring appropriate social distancing precautions. And I can tell you the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, he knows what he's doing. He's a great governor. He knows exactly what he's doing. Montana will begin lifting restrictions on Friday. Ohio, North Dakota, and Idaho have advised non-essential businesses to prepare for a phased opening starting May 1st.
After weeks of lockdown, Israel says it will begin to relax some of its COVID-19 restrictions and partially reopen its economy starting tomorrow. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the loosening of the pandemic regulations will be done responsibly and gradually, with 30% of employees in the private sector allowed to return to the office under social distancing and hygiene guidelines. Today is Easter Sunday for those of the Eastern Orthodox faith. A celebration was held in Jerusalem at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, but it was devoid of worshipers due to COVID-19. Mass was performed at the site where many Christians believe Jesus was entombed and rose from the dead after his crucifixion. Travel restrictions imposed by Israel have, of course, prevented the arrival of pilgrims to Jerusalem. Well, they say necessity is the mother of invention and solutions, and we continue to see interesting ways of meeting people's needs. Some small businesses are using self-driving delivery robots to get grocery items to customers while limiting person-to-person contact during the coronavirus pandemic.
There's a robot now.
Yeah.
Coming home.
Yep.
I'd almost say uncanny. And it's very careful. It stops for not only intersections, but just for alleys. Well, I think it's the sign of things to come. But at the same time, somebody has to put the bags into the robot. And when the robot arrives, or when I get home with my stuff, probably we're going to wipe it off with a Clorox solution.
So I think today we have 5 robots running. We've had up to 10. It depends on their availability. And right now, some of them are out mapping so the distance gets further. We got that all situated with the delivery and pickup when we closed the store April 1st to customers. And so it's taken us a good 2 weeks to get our legs under us and get our grocery delivery and ordering system in place. And literally, it's like the highlight of people's day when they get a robot. It's so fun and funny and just exciting and different. And it's a great distraction.
Well, I think it's interesting, but I don't think I will rely on it once we can go back to normal shopping.
A California-based men's leadership pastor has launched an online video series called the Chronicles to help reach men facing the challenges of the current pandemic. Kenny Luck is the founder and president of Every Man Ministries from Crossline Community Church.
I decided to do the Chronicles because here in California on the west coast of the United States, our governor, as soon as he became aware that this was going to be a pandemic, he came down really hard in our neck of the woods in terms of social gatherings. And when that happened, it's sort of the pressure of having to comply made my mind go, you know what, if I have to comply and I have to stay home, that means millions of other men are going to stay home. And if they're staying home from work, they'll have time to watch a global live stream offering, which I then had the thought, called my producer, and I said, this is what we're going to do. And this was 4 weeks ago. And so we decided to do a series called the Chronicles. And, you know, the Bible has letters from quarantine. They're called the prison epistles. And so I decided to do a study out of the book of Philippians where the Apostle Paul's talking from quarantine. He's contagious. They put him in quarantine. And he's kind of offering his perspective to other believers and friends that he's forcibly separated from. And so that's sort of how it got started. And our global audience increased 40 times to the degree that we're reaching about 100,000 men a week. I think the majority of people who tune into the Chronicles are working on the same questions that we all are. What is God's purpose and presence in the middle of this? How do I respond? How do I respond to suffering? How do I respond to the loss that I see happening? And turning to God is the primary solution to this.
Recapping one of our top news stories, at least 10 people are dead after an active shooter incident in the rural community of Portapique, Nova Scotia, including an RCMP officer and the suspect. And a look at weekend weather. It was a beautiful day in southern Alberta, and there's more of that on the way. Mainly clear overnight with a low of 0, and a gorgeous day for tomorrow. Sunshine with a moderate southwest wind gusting from 20 to 40. We should hit a high of 18 degrees. Lethbridge City Councillor Blaine Higgin is pleased that the province will be investing millions of dollars into helping those in our city beat drug addiction, but he still has some concerns about the supervised consumption site. Hal Roberts has that interview coming right up.